Okay, hello and welcome to EPLW. My name's Joe Carter, and alongside me today is Roz, and this is a EPL Gameweek 21 preview. What we're going to do today is look at every fixture in this game week. We're going to have a quick prediction, and we're going to do an EPL pick as well. So an FPL pick, should I say, a Fantasy Premier League pick each. We're going to go for a player each who we think is going to make the most impact in that game. Roz, introduce yourself, please. Tell us about yourself and what you're looking forward to talking about today.
Hi, I'm Roz. As you can probably tell, I'm a Millwall season ticket holder, though I'm not going to too many games at the moment, surprisingly. What am I looking forward to? Well, it's a really interesting game week all round, actually. You've got some really hard games to call. I think maybe I could predict two of them, but I think there's a case for every other game going either way, so looking forward to getting into that.
Well, I'm going to note down every prediction we make, and then I'm going to hold us both to account on Sunday's episode of EPLW. Before we get into it, just a reminder: if you're watching, to like this video, subscribe to the channel so you never miss an EPLW episode, and also hit that notification button on YouTube as well, so you get notified when we go live, and you can watch it live, and you can contribute by chatting in the live text box on the right hand of your screen. Okay. Rowan, we're going to go in chronological order. I don't want to break tradition this early on into our preview. So let's start with today at 12:30, the visit of Steve Bruce's Newcastle to Goodison Park. It's Everton versus Newcastle United. Abdoulaye Doucouré's back for Everton. Alan, Fabian Delph, and Cuckoo and Jean-Philippe GB A minor remain out. What do you... G flat A minor. That's his name, isn't it? Sorry, that's a musician's joke. If you're watching, don't worry. Gabamin. I think that's how you say it. Oh my god, my pronunciation's awful. Anyway, where do you see this game going? And who's your pick?
Stacey, it's the big Duncan Ferguson derby. However, I think Newcastle are lacking a bit of something that they had in the 90s when they were actually a competitive side. This is only going one way, isn't it? It's Everton all the way. The Carlo Ancelotti's done wonders at Everton. He's a world-class manager. And Newcastle are just in an absolute mess, aren't they?
Do you reckon Ancelotti will stick with Pickford? I don't want to add fuel to this like Pickford fire. Everyone jumps on Jordan Pickford's back every time he makes a mistake. Everyone seems to be on him, but will Carlo Ancelotti stick with him and show faith, or will he give him a rest and take him out of the limelight?
It's tough, isn't it? When hounding players, as I think everyone does at some point, usually with their own player, I think the reason there's so much interest in Pickford is because he's been England's #1 goalkeeper for a while. I think when hounding players, it's important to look at whether it's an issue with confidence and something that will change that, or if it's an issue with technique, and if it's an issue with something that's actually in their game, which is making them make those mistakes time and time again. Jordan Pickford's conceding the same kind of goals. That's what's worrying, that he's constantly letting them just go straight through his wrists. And yeah, he's brilliant with his feet. It doesn't help his case that Nick Pope has kind of gone back to the form that we know he can produce around the same sort of time. I would say Pickford is the one kind of chink in Everton's armour at the moment.
Okay. And on the flip side of things, we'll give a quick mention to Newcastle. Awful run of form. They've taken only 2 points from their past 9 league games, and they've lost 5 in a row. They kind of had their moments against Leeds in midweek, but they didn't do enough. And the closer they get to that relegation zone, you've got to say the more pressure there is on Bruce.
More pressure on Bruce, and you have to wonder at what point does he decide that Steve Bruce might not be the man. It really seems to not be working there. And I'd have to say Mike Ashley would possibly, with a club as big as Newcastle, you'd have to say that he'd go down as the worst Premier League owner of all time, getting a club the size of Newcastle relegated 3 times. If that did happen,
Wow, yeah. I mean,
that would be.
that's a big shout still at this stage in the season. But yeah, I see where you're going with that one. And of course, it would be remiss of us not to mention Joe Linton's haircut scandal. He put a picture on Instagram, didn't he, the other day of him at the barber's getting his hair done in a pandemic. What's wrong with you, Joe Linton? Come on.
Okay.
You can say, oh, he's a young footballer or whatever. He's 24. Like, there's no excuses. Sorry. What are you doing? Like, it's outrageous. And Newcastle saying they're going to take internal action, whatever that means.
One guy that doesn't need his barnet sorting out is Andy Carroll. He's really not feeling the effects of a lockdown trim. But I think he's actually raised his game significantly in the last few weeks.
Yeah. Could be their lifesaver.
Steve Bruce keeps subbing him off, and he doesn't look out of steam. He just looks really pissed off on the bench when he gets taken off.
Yeah.
I think we were watching the game together. I can't remember who it was against. But there was a sort of 20-minute spell a couple of weeks ago.
Was it the Arsenal game?
Was it?
I think it was the Arsenal game, wasn't it? And he was making a difference, and it was 0-0. And he took Carroll off, and then Arsenal went and won it from that point.
And he's just a nuisance, isn't he? He knows what he's good at. He causes defenders nightmares, and I would say that if Newcastle have a way out of it, of potentially that kind of sit down into relegation zone, then he might get.
That the Geordie Ibrahimovic, Andy Carroll. Have you considered a lockdown trim, Roz, or are you just you gonna go for the grow?
You know,
are you working your way to a Valderrama? Are you gonna go for a Valderrama? Or are you going to go for that?
I made the same mistake twice. In the first lockdown, I needed a haircut and decided not to get one. And then they closed hairdressers. And then in this lockdown, I needed a haircut well before we actually went into lockdown. And I just kept putting it off. And now it's pretty,
okay, right.
pretty ridiculous.
So your prediction then for Everton Newcastle, I'm writing it down on my computer as we speak. What did you say?
I didn't actually say a score, but it'll be Everton. I'm going to go 3-1.
Okay, 3-1.
I reckon Andy Carroll might nick a goal.
I'm going to go big on this one. I'm going to say 4-0 Everton. I think it's going to be a thumping. I think Bruce is getting sacked tonight. And we're going to be talking about who's the new Newcastle manager tomorrow. Big predictions from Carter. Right, Roz, who's your fantasy pick in this game?
I've actually just drafted him back in, Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
DCL.
Despite his incredible run of form, he's still relatively cheap. Still under 8 million, I think. He had that injury, and I think a lot of people took him out. But his movement, his runs, he's just really an incredible striker.
Great shout. Okay. Do you know what? I've just got to agree with that. Really, DCL is their best chance of goals, and I've gone for big goals. So I have to also go with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Okay. Let's get on to the next match then. And we're going to look at Crystal Palace Wolves now. 3 o'clock kickoff today in South London. Roy Hodgson has confirmed that new signing Jean-Philippe Mateta is available and is in contention to make his debut. Tomkins is absent. Schlupp, Sacco and Ferguson also remaining sidelined. New Wolves signing Willian Jose made his debut in midweek as a sub. Could be set for a start today, Willian Jose, at Selhurst?
You'd think so. They've, obviously, since that horror injury to Raul Jimenez, they've been relying or putting a lot of weight on the shoulders of Fabio Silva.
Yes.
Formerly of Porto. And Willian Jose is a bit older. He's probably got a few more games under his belt. He's a bit of a lump, isn't he? I sort of looked him up, and
he's a big lad.
When you think Brazilian, you don't think height, but he's I reckon he can cause Palace a few problems.
Okay, and with that in mind, do you think that's kind of, is he your main sort of focus in this game? Do you feel like I feel like it's up in the balance, this game. It could go either way. It's like you were saying at the top of the show, there's so many games that are hard to call this week. I mean, we were lucky starting off with an easy one. We were lucky we started off with, David David versus Goliath, and Goliath's gonna win. But now we're looking at like it's like Gryffindor versus Slytherin. This one you can't really call it, can you?
I think this one could be 2-0 either way. It could be 2-2. It could be 4-3. It could be 0-0. It could be drab. It depends which two teams turn up, really. We know that Wolves are perfectly capable of playing dynamic football, tearing teams apart. We also know that Hodgson sides are more than capable of being organised, keeping their shape, defending, and then they've got a bit of quality with Wilfried Zaha and Eberechi Eze.
Yeah, there's
Two terrific players that have a moment in magic in them. Oh, I'm
there's
going
some
to go for a
class on
2-2.
Sorry, say that again.
I'm going to go for a 2-2.
2-2.
for this one.
Okay. I'm going 2-1 to Palace because Palace tend to show up in the big games, and for them, this is a pretty big game. But that being said, my fantasy pick is actually going to be Willian Jose. You know, as we've talked about before on EPLW, I follow Real Sociedad, where he's been for the last 4 or 5 years. And he is, if he's, you know, anywhere in and around that box, even 20 yards out, he can smash them in. And also a very powerful player, and also he's good in the air. And I fancy him in the air against Crystal Palace's defence. Who are you going for? Who's your pick?
I'm going to go for Eberechi Eze, as I mentioned him just now. He's just a real talent, isn't he? Seems like
Class.
a really humble guy. He's from our local area, actually.
He's from the end.
Southeast
He's
London.
from sort of Greenwich, Charlton area, isn't he?
Yeah. Do you know where he was on the books?
Um,
Know where he started out?
Let me guess. Was it Millwall?
It was Millwall,
Oh.
and we let him go to QPR for free
Oh, wow.
because we have no sense when it comes to that age range players. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Eberechi Eze is your fantasy pick, and you're saying 2-2. Okay, now that's Palace Wolves, by the way. And if we thought Everton Newcastle was David versus Goliath, well, this next one also 3:00 kickoff today. Manchester City against Sheffield United. I mean, surely Sheffield United can't do it again. They've gone to well, they played Manchester United in midweek, managed to get a win there somehow. Well, I mean, let's be fair, Man United kind of let them do that, let them have like a little passing drill in their area, recycle possession about 5 times, and Ollie Watkins just puts it in the net. But are Man City going to provide a bit of a sterner test, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I alluded to it in the last show. It wasn't. Sheffield United were, of course, better because they've been abysmal all season. To go win at Old Trafford is great, but as soon as that second goal went in, Man United just all their heads dropped. The nature of that second goal, I don't think Ollie Burke had to try particularly hard to get that goal.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll do anything against Man City. I also think we're seeing signs of Man City now. I don't know when they're going to drop points again. I think that, as we've seen with Pep Guardiola sides in the past, they're just going to go on one of those runs, and we could be here in April talking about this terrific run they've been on, which led them to the title.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, there's not really much else to say on this one. I mean, I think it's kind of cut and dried. Man City, got goals coming from everywhere. Sheffield United rooted to the bottom of the table. They're going to need a miracle. This is truly a mammoth task for them. It's probably potentially the worst Premier League form side at this point in the season ever, in terms of points tally over the 20 games against, you know, one of the absolute giants of European football. So it's quite a gap. And I've personally gone, I'm going to say 5-0 Man City. I've gone for big. And
you're only going 5.
Only 5? Yeah. We're playing it safe.
I'll go for 6.
You're going 6-0? Okay. And I'm going with the guy who I've captained on my fantasy football team this week, Raheem Sterling.
Ooh, shout.
Yeah.
Uh,
I just see him playing up top today. I see that Sterling through the middle, and he's going to be the main goal threat. And if he doesn't score a
uh,
couple, he's going to get a couple of assists.
I'm gonna go for, well, you never know with Pep because he probably won't even start Sterling.
Yeah, no, my
Um,
luck, he won't.
but he might not start these two guys either. But I'm gonna go for Cancelo.
Yep.
He's really impressed me in the last few weeks, and Ilkay Gundogan, who's he's one of those players that I would make captain
Yeah.
if I trusted Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, exactly. You don't. I mean, he's got like 4 goals in 3 games, but you don't know if he's going to play the next one. It is borderline frustrating, should we say, without swearing. Okay. Next game, West Brom versus Fulham. This is the big one. Grady Diangana is back in training following a hamstring injury and could feature for the first time since the 2nd of January. Connor Townsend is in contention for the first time since November after recovering from a knee injury. And Fulham fullback Anthony Robinson is available following his 1-match suspension. Fulham still without Congolo and Kearney with thigh and knee injuries respectively. Where do you see this one going? Surely, if Big Sam is going to do it with West Brom and get them out of the relegation zone, surely he has to win this match.
Yeah, and he'll know that. Big Sam's one of those managers who draws up the fixtures when he comes into a club, highlights the ones where he thinks they can get a win, highlights the bonus games that, if they walk away with a point, then brilliant. This will, I'm sure, be one of the ones where he says we have to get 3 points here. They're surprisingly talented squads. You've got exciting players in both sides, and they both like to play quite open. Well, at least until Big Sam came into West Brom, they like the idea of playing this kind of open game, which leads to really great games. I think that's kind of been to their demise, similar to Norwich last season, who tried to play this sort of expansive football.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's not what keeps you up. Sadly, I think this will be more about the managers than the players. Having said all of that,
so
I think Big Sam's going to do a job on Scott Parker.
Big Sam, the wily old fox, and Scott Parker, the poor little mouse. Is that how you're portraying this one?
What's he got? He's got probably about 20 years managing experience on him.
Yeah,
maybe more.
Yeah. Okay, so presumably you're going for a West Brom win then.
I'm going to go for a West Brom 1-0.
1-0, okay.
Yeah, 1-0, and it's going to be, I don't know. It'll be like a set piece goal.
A set piece. Okay, well, I've gone 2-1 West Brom. My fantasy pick is Mateus Pereira. Okay, they got thumped by City last week and he couldn't do anything there. But before that, a goal against West Ham, not too bad, and 2 against Wolves. So he's surely the form player. And if they're going to get anything out of the game, which they should, he's the one, right? Pereira. Who's your pick?
Yeah, I'm going to go Pereira as well. That's a great shout. He's on penalties as well. And in this kind of tight game, it could, like I say, it could be a set piece goal. I think he takes corners as well.
Yeah.
Really great player.
Okay, cool. So on to then the small matter of Arsenal Man United at 5:30 p.m. today. And the big thing is, are we going to see Draco Malfoy, aka Martin Odegaard, step into the breach? Another Harry Potter reference for you there.
That's good. You kind of brought it back.
Yeah. I just can't wait for Arsenal to play Brighton again. And I want to see Martin Odegaard go up to the Brighton manager and go, Potter. But yeah, that's just me personally. Right? So, back in the day.
But it's such an obscure analogy. You've clearly given it a lot of thought.
Back in the day, this game was. Back in the day, this game was Gryffindor Slytherin. I mean, is it still that now, or is it more of a sort of Hufflepuff representing?
I think whenever you've got this fixture, there's always going to be something to it. If anything, the amount of hype that goes into it makes the players feel that way. So even if they're not in the table positions that they formerly were, if they don't have the same quality, and there's this whole thing about whether you have players that know what this fixture means. Can't
Right.
just talk about it like that. I think regardless of any of that, we're in an age of social media. We're in an age of big television companies hyping up these games to get the most viewers as possible. These players will know that everyone is expecting this game to be huge. I think that will make them play like it.
Yeah.
Will we see Odegaard? I hope so.
Yeah, me too. He's
been on our radar for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, an incredibly talented player. And we spoke about him on the last episode of EPLW on Sunday. Just quickly, I should go through the team news because I didn't do that. Odegaard isn't expected to start, but he's expected to maybe make some sort of appearance. And we don't know yet whether Aubameyang will be available despite having returned from spending time with his ill mother. We wish P all the best. Thomas Partey and Emil Smith-Rowe will be assessed. Tierney's expected to be back. For Man United, Eric Bailly missed Wednesday's defeat by Sheffield United. Maybe he'd tell you that's why they lost. Doubt it. But he is fit again, and Lindelof should also be back for United. So pretty strong 11s expected by both of the teams. The one absence maybe being Aubameyang for Arsenal. But who do you see being the key figure in this game? I think I know who you're going to say actually, but go on. Who do you think it's going to be?
But I was just thinking about the Partey and Smith-Rowe actually being assessed. Smith-Rowe, I think, is an ankle injury, isn't it? He sort of hobbled off.
Yeah.
In the last game, and that was sort of the position that everyone was wondering, where is Odegaard going to feature?
Right.
So if unfortunately Smith-Rowe is out, that could be quite a fortuitous timing for Odegaard to kind of step in. Who do I think will grab this game by the horns? I'm going to go with my favourite, Bukayo Saka.
Oh, you're going to say Saka?
Actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that United's defence is just so unpredictable. And the leader or the organiser that you've got there is Harry Maguire. Whether it's Lindelof or Bailly next to him or a young Axel Tuanzebe.
Yeah, or a 3.
That side of the centre-half pairing is just not quite as strong. I think that whether Saka starts on the left and targets that and tries to cut inside, or if he starts on the right-hand side, he'll be up against Luke Shaw, who I think has been better in the last couple of games, but always has that shocking mistake in him. He was at fault for one of the goals in the FA Cup against Liverpool. I think Saka's gonna leave Man United fans in tears.
Well, I've actually gone for Saka as my fantasy pick as well, and I've predicted, and this is maybe slightly biased as an Arsenal fan, but we are in top form at the moment. Where only City are in better form in the league over the last 5, and after Man United's awful turnout against Sheffield United, I think Arsenal are well positioned to inflict that first away defeat on Man United, and I've gone Arsenal 3-2. Saka's my fantasy pick. You've also gone for Saka, but what's your scoreline prediction, Roz?
I'm going to go for 2-1 Arsenal. Although I would say, we were talking about Smith-Rowe and Partey. Just want to focus on Thomas Partey. He's a big one. I think if you have him in a midfield against the likes of, I think Solskjaer will start both Pogba and Fernandes. I think he'll outwork both of them. So I think if he starts, then that'll be huge for Arsenal.
Yeah, he gets through a lot of work rate, doesn't he? To coin a phrase, to use a much used cliche, he gets through a lot of work. Okay. On to then this evening's final game, which will be Southampton hosting Aston Villa. and that's at 8 o'clock down at St Mary's. Ryan Bertrand's going to return for Southampton after his one-match ban, although Oriol Romeu and Musa Djenepo are fit again. Kyle Walker-Peters, Yannick Vestergaard, Mohamed Salisu and Nathan Tella all remain sidelined. And for Aston Villa, their 14 million signing, one of the sort of only signings in this January window so far, really, permanent in that sense. 14 million from Marseille. Morgan Sanson is available. Courtney Houser's still out. Grealish and Matt Targett are one booking away from an automatic suspension. Quick on this one. What's going wrong with Southampton? Is it just the level of injuries? They haven't got the depth, or because their form has dipped, hasn't it?
I think it's the injuries. It's the fact that they've been relying on players like Danny Ings for a long time, and actually, I think he is fit again, but he keeps kind of going in and out of the squad.
Yeah.
Also, the mental strain that's going to put on someone. You know, you're a side that probably doesn't have the resources to get into, say, the top 5, but you're a side that's expected to be in and around those places.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of sort of mental pressure for a side like Southampton. Top manager, you know, I think they'll comfortably finish 7th or 8th, and maybe if they put a bit of a run together again, we could be looking at a 5th, 6th position for them.
Interesting. And also, you've got to say that Villa are probably eyeing up similar positions in the league. Personally, I think Villa, they've got this class about them now with the likes of Grealish and Watkins, and they've added Morgan Sanson, who, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about. What I do know though is he's a hard-working and creative midfielder, and he will only add depth to that. They've got the likes of Ross Barkley in reserve. Also, you know, they've got a very, very good depth of quality in that Villa team, and I think that's what's going to shine through in this game. I've gone for 2-1 Villa. What's your prediction, and who's your key man?
Yeah, I think Villa will bounce back. I think they'll have a look at themselves after the Burnley game,
Of course,
and I think they'll be clinical. I think they've also just got a bit more to prove. You know, Southampton have just lost to Arsenal. Probably not a game that they were really expected to win, even though they were in it for a while. And Villa weren't. No one's expecting Villa to lose to Burnley.
yeah.
So I think they'll have taken that result to heart. They'll be out with something to prove. I'm going to go for Ollie Watkins up front from my team.
Okay. Ollie Watkins. Is he in your team?
He's not, but I would if I didn't have other options that I preferred.
Fair enough. And what's your score prediction for this one then?
I'm actually gonna go higher. I reckon it'll be another score fest. I think 3-2.
3-2 to Villa. Okay, 3-2 to Villa and Watkins. I've gone 2-1 to Villa and Grealish. Okay, then on to our next match, and we're moving to tomorrow. Chelsea-Burnley kicks off at midday at Stamford Bridge. N'Golo Kante is going to have a late fitness test, although he's back in training. And Tuchel hasn't really got much else to worry about. Burnley, Charlie Taylor and Ashley Barnes have returned to training, but Sean Dyche was sceptical about their involvement in his press conference. Josh Brownhill was subbed against Villa and is a doubt fitness-wise. I mean, Chelsea haven't... yes, they will miss Kante if he doesn't play. But really and truly, they've got the depth, haven't they? You saying they won't miss Kante?
I don't think they'll miss Kante against the Burnley side, who can cause teams problems. For this one, I've got a premonition, right? You know that Sean Dyche interview he does after a game?
Yeah.
Well, you know, when you're playing sides like this, you've got like a side with that much quality. We're talking about a side with like million pound players. It's the Premier League and you can't really do much. But I'm proud of the lads today. It'll be one of those post-matches.
Can I just say, bravo! That Sean Dyche impression was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. It's the interview that you've seen so much over the years from Sean Dyche where he just goes, you know what, we were playing a better side. And I think, I still haven't looked it up, but how much possession against Wolves.
It was in the 80s.
They're now playing against the Burnley, who probably have, you know, less. It's not the way they play as much as it is.
Okay, so
against that.
What's your prediction? Score prediction and fantasy pick?
I think 3-0. 3-0 Chelsea.
3-0. And who's your fantasy pick?
It's a really hard one because we've only actually seen one Chelsea lineup under Thomas Tuchel. So this game it could be anyone really. But what I would say in future weeks is to look to, and it might start this week, Christian Pulisic, who worked under Thomas Tuchel, Borussia Dortmund.
Yes.
And played quite a few games for him. I think he had 40 in the season they were there together. So clearly likes him enough as a player. Is only a better player than he was then in Germany.
Yeah.
So I reckon he'll turn into one of Thomas Tuchel's key men.
Thomas Tuchel's top
and it
tips.
Might start today.
So that's your top Thomas Tuchel tip for today. Christian Pulisic 3-0. I've gone 4-1 Chelsea. I reckon there'll be an early Burnley goal tomorrow. I reckon Chelsea will be caught napping. I reckon
Cat amongst pigeons.
I reckon there'll be a Chris Wood back post 1 yard header, something like that, and then Chelsea will be like, right, we need to sort this out, lads. And I'm backing Werner to be the main man. I think the connection, the Tuchel-Werner connection, similar to your kind of connection with Pulisic, I'm going to say that he's going to have the German connection with Timo Werner, and Werner's going to come on and smash a couple goals in. That's what I'm going to say. Well, at least I hope he is. Anyway, next game, we have got your beloved Leeds and Marcelo Bielsa visit Leicester City at the King Power from 2 p.m. tomorrow. Leeds defender Diego Llorente could be out for up to a month after injuring his hamstring during the midweek win over Newcastle. Robin Koch, Gaetano Berardi and Adam Forshaw remain sidelined. Wilfred Ndidi misses out for Leicester with a hamstring injury, but Johnny Evans, who went off in midweek with an eye problem, should be fit. Top scorer Jamie Vardy is still out after his hernia surgery. So where do we see this one going?
Obviously, Jamie Vardy's going to be a huge loss for Leicester. I still think they've got enough. You're talking about Leeds injuries at the back there with Robin Koch and Llorente as well, who I think were a combined 50 million or around that for a newly promoted side. And they're both centre halves, and they've been notorious with sort of not being able to defend and saying, "Oh, well, look at the players. They're sort of League One players." No, you've got a defender from Bilbao, and you've got another defender from where was Koch from? Was he
Germany?
It was a decent enough German side. I think this will be 3-1 Leicester.
I've gone for exactly the same score myself.
But Brendan Rodgers is a man that should be talked about in the same way that everyone lushes over Bielsa. I think he's a terrific manager. He's a wonderful manager. He's a terrific manager. And,
is this another impression?
I can't do Irish to save my life. I can't do short.
I'll tell you what, if you're watching this right now, comment in the comments section and give us an impression for Rowan to do, and we can we'll do it.
But yeah, I'm going 3-1 Leicester.
I think lucky for you, no one's watching live, by the way. 3-1, and who's your fantasy pick?
I'm going to go for the guy that's really turned on the last 2 weeks, James Maddison.
Wow. Well, we have both gone for exactly the same there. I've also gone 3-1 Leicester and also Maddison. I need him to bag me some points. He got me 2 points in midweek. That's rubbish. Come on, Maddo. And I want to see another great celebration from him as well. Okay.
Brilliant.
Our penultimate match of the game week then. while we'll be preparing for EPLW on Sunday, West Ham will be hosting Liverpool at the London Stadium at 4:30. No fresh injury concerns for West Ham. They will have Jesse Lingard on loan, but not sure if it's going to be finalised in time for him to be involved. Jurgen Klopp's hopeful that the ankle injury suffered by Joel Matip against Spurs on Thursday is not serious, but he's awaiting a scan. Fabinho still not available, and obviously Virgil van Dijk not available. Who the hell is going to play centre-back for Liverpool tomorrow at West Ham? And how are they going to cope with Michael Antonio? Tell me.
It's a good question. I think it was Jordan Henderson alongside Matip in the last game. I anticipate someone like Phillips to come in, one of their youth centre-backs, to come in and do a job there. This is another one of those ridiculously hard games to call. I think the question really is that against Spurs, was that Liverpool's turning point? Was that where, it kind of switched and they decided kind of, come on, this is what we are. Trent Alexander-Arnold had, I think, his first good game of the season, which is astonishing.
Hang on. Is that the Trent Alexander-Arnold?
I can't.
Hang on, Roz. Is that the Trent Alexander-Arnold that you said was playing rubbish and wasn't going to do anything? And then, and then he went and set up that goal for Liverpool against Spurs with that banging cross.
I think people are going to start paying me to say bad things about their players. In the hope.
Yeah.
Apparently I just have this jinx where I say that get all your Sheffield United players out and then go beat Man United 2-1. Get Trent Alexander-Arnold back out. He's been disgraceful.
I'm not gonna let you live this down. I'm not gonna let you live this down. We're gonna come back to it every time we meet on YouTube. All right. So can you say some rubbish about Michail Antonio for me, please? Because I've just put him in my team.
What I'll say about West Ham is they're organised. I can't, the types of goals that they score. They've got such a sort of seemingly negative formation, possibly the most negative formation in football, the sort of 5-4-1, but they've even got two relatively defensive midfielders in that in Declan Rice and Thomas Souček. What's he on? 8 goals this season?
I think it was 7 or 8. I think it's 7.
Okay. Michail Antonio just seems to pop up in the right places for a player that used to play right back in non-league. He just has that instinct, doesn't he? Same with Souček.
He's West Ham's kind of equivalent right-footed Gareth Bale in a way. He's gone from right back and made his way up the pitch, and now he's a bit of a beast up top, isn't he? He's so strong, so powerful, so quick as well, and so smart at making those runs in behind. Just a very, very tidy player.
I'm going to make another parallel with Souček.
Yeah, go on.
He reminds me a lot of Tim Cahill. The kind of goals that he scores aren't... Because, he looks like a kind of burly bloke, doesn't he? He looks like he's going to kind of... You wouldn't want to run into him in a dark alleyway.
In Stratford,
But the type of goals that he scores aren't by sort of out-muscling defenders. They're not sort of based on athleticism necessarily. It's that he anticipates where the ball's going to fall. He's a very clever header of the ball. Just from every set piece, just seems to play out the situation a couple of steps in advance.
Yeah.
To know where to stand when the rebound comes to him and stuff like that.
Reads it very well.
Yeah.
And I think, a good bit of scouting and transfer sort of set up at the club there with him and Soufal coming in from, was it Slavia Prague? They came in from both of them, and they've both been great additions and seem to have fitted straight into the Premier League. They've got the physicality already, which is what a lot of players struggle with. They've got the quickness. They've got they can pick a pass. Both of them. They've got real quality in those two players, West Ham.
Well, what's interesting about West Ham is I think we think of the owners and the club of having spent all this money and thrown it down the drain.
Yeah.
You know, they've got this big new stadium and they've made kind of notorious flop signings. Uh, if you look at the likes of Yarmolenko and the likes of other expensive signings like that, they're on the bench. If you look at West Ham's actual starting 11, it must be one of the cheapest to assemble first 11s in the Prem
Well, I tell you what.
that are sitting as high up as they are now. I mean,
With that in mind,
um,
I would like you. I would like you to put together the price of West Ham starting 11 from tomorrow for tomorrow. That's all right for Sunday's EPLW tomorrow. And
I'll,
if you
I'll
and if you're
I'll
watching
weigh it
this,
up.
if
I'll
you're
have a
watching
look.
this and you want to make sure you never miss an episode of EPLW, subscribe to the channel and push the notification button so you never miss one of these live streams. Sorry, Roz, I couldn't resist the opportunity to plug the station there, the channel. So yeah, you're gonna get that 11 together for me. Yeah, with the I want to know how much West Ham starting 11 costs. Perhaps Liverpool's as well, so we can compare and contrast.
Yep.
Both teams currently are on, they sit fourth and fifth, respectively. Liverpool played 20, 37 points. West Ham fifth, played 20, 35 points. West Ham could go fourth, like legit fourth, by beating Liverpool tomorrow. And that, for me, is enough motivation for them to win the game. And that's why I have said in my prediction, balls out, West Ham 3-2. Antonio's my key man. What's your prediction?
I think that they'll definitely cause them problems. You've got to factor in the fact that Jurgen Klopp might know probably doesn't know his best defensive pairing, and the fact that West Ham just cause chaos in that box. I think giving free kicks away in stupid areas will be something that Jurgen Klopp's kind of hammering to his players. Don't give them any opportunities there. I think I'm going to go with you for the scoreline, but I'm going to go the other way. I think it'll be 3-2 Liverpool. I think that West Ham will cause them problems, but the class of Salah, Mane, and the like will be prevalent.
So is it going to be one of those two your key fantasy picks, Salah or Mane, or is there someone else?
Yeah, I'm going to go for Mo Salah.
Mo Salah. Okay, and just out of interest, is he in your fantasy team?
No, all the ones that I'm saying aren't.
Interesting.
But again, that's just because I've gone for other
Is
players
this
that I prefer.
is this you trying to reverse psychology yourself, Bo? When you recommend a certain player and they do badly, you're going to recommend other players and then put. It's beyond me, mate.
That's my very kind of new wave thinking about it. Yeah.
New way of thinking. Okay, right. And on to our last game of the game week then. Sunday night at 7:15 when we're live with EPLW. If this game is boring you, which it no doubt it will bore you because it's Tottenham, away to Brighton and Hove Albion. 7:15 kickoff at the Amex. We'll be doing EPLW during the first half. Brighton have no fresh injury problems. Welbeck could return to training next week after his knee injury, while Tariq Lamptey is still a few weeks away from fitness after his thigh problem. Harry Kane could be out for at least a fortnight after injuring both ankles in Thursday's defeat by Liverpool. Now he knows what it's like to be me on a football pitch. My ankles are shocking. Dele Alli and Sergio Reguilon are doubtful with respective tendon and muscle problems. And Lo Celso is still out with a hamstring injury. Tottenham have lost just one of their last 12 away league games. I mean, it's a tough ask for Brighton to get anything out of this game. Would I be wrong in saying that?
I think the one thing they've got going for them is the loss of Harry Kane, which Tottenham always seem to feel. And it's a bit like Aguero. At some point in the season, two of the top strikers of the recent age of the Premier League, they do have these injury problems, and you get sides that rely on them and build around them. I think where Pep sort of rectified that is that City no longer rely on Sergio Aguero.
Yeah.
It's very much sort of they can win titles even if he's kind of a bit part player. I think Tottenham still lose something huge when they lose Harry Kane. I think they'll win, just because I still think they'll have too much quality for Brighton. But I think in the coming weeks we could see those results that they should be getting drop a little bit, depending on how long Harry Kane is out for.
Yeah, it was almost a curse, wasn't it, in the pre-match press conference for Thursday night, before we did EPLW. Mourinho was saying, talking about Van Dijk and his loss to Liverpool, and he was saying Liverpool can't afford to lose a player like Van Dijk. He's irreplaceable. And he made the comparison, if we were to lose Harry Kane, he would be irreplaceable. So, you know, if that's true and it wasn't just, you know, him trying to put a bit of spin out there, then he is well and truly going to be shafted in the coming weeks. I mean, they have got quality. They've got quality in that, you know, they can rework it, but without Kane, they're not going to be the same proposition.
I think what will be interesting in previous seasons, we've seen the likes of Lucas Moura and Son just raise their game a bit, step it up. I think we could see that. I also think that Gareth Bale, this might be his time.
Ooh.
I'll be really interested to see, particularly against the lesser sides. No disrespect to Brighton fans, but the sides that Tottenham should be kind of sweeping away.
Yeah.
This could be Jose's opportunity to go to Gareth Bale. Now's your chance. Show me what you can do. He's a cleverer player now. He doesn't rely so much on his athleticism. He's brilliant in the air, and I think he could actually do a job there in the number 9. Just
in the 9,
out and out switch.
Oh, okay. So you'd play him in the 9, what, in a front 3 with like Sonny and Bergwijn maybe?
Yeah, so I'm going to go for Son. I'd actually go for Moura and Ndombele, who has, I can't think of the last player who had such a change in form within the space of about 6 months. It's absolutely astonishing to watch. Yeah. He's not only changed how much he gives his team, just his general levels. He's entirely changed the kind of player he was. He used to be a lazy, or get sort of lumbered as this lazy number 6 kind of defender.
Yeah.
And now he's an incredibly hard-working number 10. He's tracking back. He's got a bit of class to his game. Did you see the, I think Sky Sports put it on their Twitter thing, but where he did a sort of Marseille turn on a couple of players in the Liverpool game. But what's impressing me the most is that he's scoring goals. He's showing that he's got a bit of skill to his game, but he's also still tracking back and sprinting back, which are all the criticisms that were given to him last season.
I mean, you've got to say, maybe it was all those one-to-one sessions in the park with Jose in lockdown that helped him out there. He has become something of a he's become something of a false 10, we might say. He is a number. He's a 10, but he's also got the I don't know. Yeah, he has got that defensive quality ingrained in him, and that's kind of what Mourinho wants, isn't it? He wants players with defensive awareness all over the pitch. You see Sonny, you see Kane coming back and doing their defensive work. Maybe that's why Gareth Bale will work best as a 9. Who knows? But we do need to get a prediction from you, and a key man.
I'm going to go 2-1. No, 2-0 Spurs.
2-0 Spurs. And who's your fantasy pick?
Son.
Yeah, okay.
My fantasy pick, who actually is in my fantasy team. So.
Well, we have gone exactly the same yet again. We are just in sync at the moment. I've also gone 2-0 Spurs and Son, but I want to give an honourable mention to Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who I think is becoming a pivotal player for Spurs. He's not a fantasy pick though, unfortunately, because of the way the Fantasy Premier League works. You're not rewarded. You're only rewarded for goals, assists and clean sheets and minutes played. You're not awarded for the amount of passes you make, the amount of tackles you make, the amount of recoveries, the amount of duels you win, the amount of headers you win. If it was more like that, Højbjerg would be straight in for me.
Absolutely. It's been kind of the running theme of fantasy football in this country. I know the Germans do it slightly differently, but you do get awarded points for tackles. If that were the case, we'd all have, in seasons gone by, the Kantés, the Fernandinhos, the Fabinhos, the players who are just so important. But in fantasy football, if they're not getting goals, then they're not worth putting in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that concludes our look at Premier League Game Week 21. Let me just wrap it up for you. I'm going to whiz through our predictions and key fantasy men. And before we go. So here we go. Everton, Newcastle. Roz said 3-1, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I said 4-0, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Crystal Palace, Wolves. Roz said 2-2, Eze. I said 2-1, Willian Jose. Man City, Sheffield United. Roz said 6-0, Cancelo, his main man. I said 5-0 and Sterling's mine. West Brom, Fulham. Roz said 1-0, Pereira. I said 2-1, Pereira. Arsenal versus Man United. Roz said 2-1 Arsenal and Saka. I said 3-2 Arsenal and Saka. Southampton, Villa. Roz said 2-3, so Villa to win 3-2 and Watkins. I said 1-2, so Villa to win 2-1 with Grealish. Chelsea, Burnley. Roz said 3-0 Chelsea and Pulisic. I said 4-1 and Werner, dangling it out there a bit. Leicester versus Leeds. We both said 3-1. We both said Maddison to be the key man there. West Ham, Liverpool. Roz said Liverpool would win that one 3-2 and Salah would be the main man. I say West Ham will win it 3-2 and Antonio will be the main man. And the last game of the game week, Brighton, Spurs. We've both said 2-0 to Spurs with Sonny, Heung-min Son being the main threat on your fantasy football. Okay, and that concludes our first ever game week preview from EPLW. It's been a pleasure. Have you enjoyed yourself, Roz?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice being able to sort of sip a coffee, getting ready before the game, rather than, lugging the beer. It's a nice change.
Yeah, no worries. Cool.
Look.
Well, thanks for joining me today, Roz. This has been EPLW's Game Week preview. My name's Joe, and I've been joined by Roz, as you can see. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you like it, subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, drop a comment in the comments underneath if you've got anything to add or anything you want us to talk about on tomorrow night's episode of EPLW, where I will be joined by Roz, none other than Mus and Matt. We've got a full complement tomorrow night. So look forward to seeing you guys then. Until then, Roz, thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.